Picture this, you're walking into the Supreme Court of India.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right. And the stakes are just incredibly high. There's a really complex case on the docket, and the judge is reviewing the final details. But right there, essentially looking over the judge's shoulder, is an artificial intelligence.
Oh, wow.
It's synthesizing precedents, summarizing testimonies, highlighting contradictions. And I know it sounds completely like a scene from a sci-fi novel, but it's actually happening right now.
It really is. I mean, it is the ultimate collision of, cutting-edge computational power and these really ancient bedrock principles of justice.
Exactly. And it brings up this massive, highly technical question, right? If a machine is helping a judge make a ruling,
Wow.
who is making sure that machine isn't, hallucinating facts?
Right, or relying on laws that were repealed like 10 years ago.
Yes. And that is exactly the architecture we are getting into in today's deep dive. We're looking at how this is actually built in real time.
We really are. It's fascinating.
Yeah. We have our hands on a really incredible piece of source material today. It's a June 2026 submission by the Foundation of Data Protection Professionals in India, or FDPPI.
Right, led by Navi, who is pretty much a pioneer in data governance over there.
Yep, and what they put together is this comprehensive 16-page critique of the Supreme Court of India's draft guidelines for using AI in the courts.
And, what makes this specific document so valuable is its sheer objectivity. Like, the FDPPI is a not-for-profit group.
So no big tech ties.
Zero. They have zero ties to big tech. They aren't part of NASCOM, which is the big IT trade association there.
Gotcha.
They don't have a vested financial interest in selling AI software to the government. Their entirely independent focus is just data protection and structural governance.
Which is so rare. So our mission today is to essentially unpack this submission. We're looking at a blueprint that is likely going to set a global due diligence benchmark.
Absolutely. Because, if you can successfully govern AI in the highest courts of a nation of over 1 billion people.
Right. Balancing tech adoption with actual human accountability.
Yeah, if you can do that there, you can probably govern it anywhere.
Okay, let's unpack this. FDPPI's biggest praise for the court's draft is something I think gives us a really solid baseline.
What stood out to you?
Well, they absolutely applaud the strict prohibition on algorithmic adjudication. In short, AI must remain completely subservient to human judgment. The computer does not get a gavel.
Right. It establishes the vital principle of human primacy. Like, behind every single algorithmic output, there must be a human taking legal and professional responsibility.
That's huge.
It really is the foundational rule of the entire draft.
So, if humans are fundamentally in charge, my immediate question is, which humans? And how are they actually organizing themselves to manage this?
That's where it gets a little complicated.
Yeah, because reading the Supreme Court's draft, they propose this decentralized bureaucracy that just seems staggering to me.
Oh, it's massive.
Right. They want an apex body, 5 different subcommittees, a center of research and excellence for AI or core AI, plus individual AI committees and secretariats at every single high court across the country.
It's a lot of layers.
To me, this sounds like a massive corporation having 25 different HR and IT departments, with all of them independently evaluating the exact same software.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair comparison.
If an AI legal research tool is evaluated and deemed technically safe by the High Court in Mumbai, but then the High Court in Delhi bans it for, say, poor data handling, doesn't that just fundamentally fracture the entire justice system?
It does. It creates a completely fragmented reality, yes. But beyond just the inconsistency of it all, FDPPI points out a very practical administrative threat.
Which is?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, FDPPI is looking down the road at the inevitable audits from the Comptroller and Auditor General.
That's the government's financial watchdog, right?
Exactly. And if every high court is running its own technical evaluations and, running complex vendor security assessments, you are just duplicating highly specialized, incredibly expensive work.
Oh, man. So they're basically setting themselves up for a massive financial audit by wasting taxpayer money on redundant tech checks.
Precisely.
So what is FDPPI's structural fix for all this?
Centralization. They suggest an AI General Council. It would be chaired by the Chief Justice of India and include the Chief Justices of all the high courts.
Okay, so every region still has a seat at the table.
Exactly. It preserves the administrative independence of the high courts. which is constitutionally vital in India, by the way, but it entirely streamlines the operational side.
Makes sense.
Instead of dozens of different technical committees scattered all across the country, you have a single unified technical committee. They evaluate the underlying code of a piece of software exactly once.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if it's approved for everyone. And if a software vendor violates a data rule, they go on a central delisting register, and their software is just pulled across all courts simultaneously.
I mean, think about how your own workplace adopts new technology. Does every single department independently vet the security protocols of your new email provider?
Of course not. That would be chaos.
Right. You have a unified IT strategy, it saves money, and more importantly, it ensures everyone is playing by the exact same rules.
Exactly.
But here is where the friction really starts for me. Let's say the central committee buys the software. Great. But software isn't a static desk or a chair. It updates, it learns, it breaks.
It's always changing.
Right. So who is constantly watching it inside the courthouse on, like, a random Tuesday afternoon?
Well, the Supreme Court's draft actually addresses this by insisting on an in-house audit model. They strictly forbid source code, algorithms, or judicial data sets from being shared with third parties.
Just to keep it locked down.
Yeah, their primary rationale is data security.
And honestly, I really can't blame them. We are talking about highly sensitive judicial data here.
Absolutely.
We're talking about witness testimonies, sealed envelopes, names of minors, corporate trade secrets. I wouldn't want the courts letting outside tech firms in Bangalore or Hyderabad pack up all that data and take it back to their own labs to run tests.
No, it is a totally valid security fear. You
Right.
really cannot let that data leave the physical or digital perimeter of the court.
Right.
But FDPPI points out the fatal flaw in relying solely on an in-house approach, which is that internal audits critically lack objectivity.
Ah, you're basically grading your own homework.
Exactly. You are asking the institution to grade itself. The in-house technical team would be auditing the very systems their own institution just spent millions to approve.
So they'd be implicitly incentivized to ignore flaws so they don't look bad for buying it in the first place.
Yes, that is a massive structural conflict of interest. Plus, there is a serious capability gap.
What do you mean?
Well, the technical depth required to audit advanced AI is immense. You have to look for things like adversarial robustness and model drift, which are incredibly specialized fields.
Wait, let's define those for a second. Adversarial robustness means what exactly? Like hackers trying to trick the AI?
Precisely. It's testing if a bad actor could intentionally feed the AI, say, a weirdly formatted legal PDF that causes the system to glitch, ignore certain precedents, or even leak hidden data.
Oh, wow, okay. And model drift.
Model drift is the risk that an AI trained today might slowly shift its outputs over several months.
Just on its own.
Because the new daily data it ingests gradually skews its baseline logic. So, court staff are brilliant administrators, but they aren't typically cutting-edge machine learning engineers who spend their days hunting for model drift.
Right. Okay, so the courts are stuck. They can't audit it themselves because they lack the highly specialized tech skills and objectivity, but they can't send it to an external tech firm because the judicial data is too sensitive.
It's a real catch-22.
Are they just supposed to hire an army of in-house data scientists with top-tier salaries?
No, FDPPI proposes a rather elegant middle ground here. You bring in accredited, security-cleared external AI auditors.
Okay.
But, and this is the crucial caveat, the audit happens entirely on court premises within a controlled environment.
I see.
Absolutely no source code, no model weights, and no judicial data sets ever leave the building.
Oh, that's smart. You bring the independent eyes to the data, you don't send the data to the independent eyes.
Exactly. That preserves the physical security, but brings in the necessary outside scrutiny.
And FDPPI actually insists on tying that scrutiny to specific people, right?
Mm-hmm.
They call for an unbroken human chain. I thought this was a brilliant procedural detail.
It really is.
They say every single AI system in the court's registry must have a named and designated officer stationed at the court and a named human handler stationed at the vendor company.
Yes, so no nameless, faceless corporate mailboxes. If the AI hallucinates a fake legal precedent, or if the system suddenly crashes during a crucial hearing, the audit trail knows exactly which two specific humans are on the hook. It basically fastens human accountability to abstract code.
Now, while we were talking about how sensitive all this data is, we really have to look at a massive jurisdictional pothole FDPPI points out.
Oh, the terminology issue.
Yeah. The court's draft introduces a brand new term to justify its security protocols, They call it sensitive judicial data.
And the problem with inventing that term out of thin air is that it clashes heavily with national law.
How so?
The recently passed 2023 Digital Personal Data Protection Act, or the DPDPA, doesn't actually use the term sensitive judicial data. In fact, it doesn't define sensitive personal data at all.
Wait, really?
Yeah. What the DPDPA does have, though, is the concept of a significant data fiduciary.
And becoming a significant data fiduciary under the DPDPA is a huge deal, right? That's not just a title. That comes with massive legal compliance burdens.
It is a monumental burden. It requires mandatory data protection officers, rigorous independent data audits, heavy regulatory oversight.
Wow.
By spontaneously creating this new category of sensitive judicial data to protect their files, the courts might accidentally be classifying themselves as significant data fiduciaries under the national law.
Which triggers all those rules.
Exactly, triggering all sorts of unintended, heavy legal obligations they just aren't prepared for.
It's like a small business accidentally checking the wrong box on a tax form and suddenly being regulated like a massive multinational bank.
That's a great way to put it.
So FDPPI suggests the Ministry of Electronics and IT, or MEDI, needs to step in quickly to clarify this. They need to officially state whether courts fall under this heavy DPDPA regulation or if they are entirely exempt as state instrumentalities.
It's a classic case of judicial ambition just moving faster than the underlying legal definitions. And that definitional rigor is required not just for the law, but for the software itself. I mean, once we have these external auditors sitting in their controlled environments on court premises, they need a clear rubric for what technical safeguards they're actually looking for when things inevitably go wrong.
Right, which brings us to FDPPI's risk tiers. They break AI systems into 4 categories, right?
Yeah.
Low, medium, high, and critical.
Correct.
Low risk might be a simple language translation tool. Medium is your standard legal research. High involves predictive analytics, like an AI trying to guess case durations. And critical risk is any AI that directly affects an adjudicatory outcome or judge's decision.
That's the big one.
And for those critical systems, FDPPI demands a very specific technical feature, which is a tamper-proof kill switch.
Yes. But the specific mechanics of that kill switch are what really matter.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. They don't just say, give the judge a way to turn it off. They specify a kill switch that is completely fundamentally isolated from the AI model itself.
Right, the isolation is key.
I think of it like a physical emergency brake on a runaway train. The emergency brake has to be mechanically separated from the train's main computer. Because if the computer is malfunctioning, and the computer is what controls the brakes...
You're going to crash?
Exactly. The AI cannot have any pathway to access, delay, or override its own termination sequence.
That is honestly a perfect analogy. You need a structural air gap
Right.
between the system and its off switch.
How does that work in software, though?
Well, in cloud-based software, this means the termination protocol operates on an entirely separate server architecture with completely separate administrative rights. So if the AI goes rogue, the external kill switch just severs its connection to the database entirely.
Boom.
Done.
So that handles the critical runaway train scenarios. But FDPPI also introduces a fascinating technical standard for the lower risk systems, like the legal research bots. They call it a fading memory.
Yes, the fading memory concept.
And I have to admit, when I first read that, I was confused. Because usually the entire selling point of AI is that it has a perfect infinite memory, right? Why would we want an AI in a courtroom to actively forget things?
Well, because the law is a living organism. It constantly evolves. Imagine an AI trained on 50 years of judicial rulings.
Okay.
If it treats all of that historical data with equal weight, it might confidently suggest a legal strategy based on a string of precedents from the 1980s.
Right.
But what if those 1980s precedents were completely overturned by a new parliamentary statute just 5 years ago?
Oh, the AI would be feeding the judge completely obsolete law simply because there were more examples of the old law in its database.
Precisely. So FDPPI says you need a time-waiting parameter built into the code. The AI needs a fading memory so that outdated practices, superseded precedents, and amended statutes gradually lose their statistical influence over the model's behavior.
That makes total sense.
Think about how your own smartphone's autocorrect learns your habits over time.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it. If my autocorrect kept changing my words based on weird slang I used heavily 5 years ago, it would be completely useless to me now.
Exactly.
It needs to know that my recent typing behavior matters significantly more than my past behavior.
Exactly right. The AI has to learn what is current and gradually deprioritize what is legally obsolete.
Wow.
And all of this technical rigor, the air-gapped kill switches, the time-weighted fading memory, it all ties back to a core philosophical shift FDPPI is pushing.
What's the shift?
Well, the Supreme Court's draft promotes a motto of innovation over restraint. They want to aggressively embrace the future, but FDPPI flips that exact motto. They say it should be restrained innovation.
So they're essentially warning the courts not to yield to a commercially powerful AI developer lobby, right?
Yes.
Because it is so easy for government administrators to get swept up in the tech hype and quickly adopt these shiny new efficiency tools.
It happens all the time.
FDPPI is saying, protect the legacy systems first. They even advocate for a mandatory one-year transition window for any new tech running parallel to the old human systems so we don't accidentally break the courts while trying to upgrade them.
It's a defensive posture. Don't blindly innovate at the cost of public trust.
And their rule is basically, if you don't fully understand the risk of an AI tool, you must legally presume it is a critical risk until proven otherwise.
Which is very smart.
Now, we spent all this time talking about how to govern the AI, how to audit it on-site, how to build a fading memory. But as I read deeper into FDPPI's submission, specifically Annexure B, I realize there is a glaring foundational issue here.
The definition problem.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure the Supreme Court and the FDPPI actually agree on what artificial intelligence is.
This is the ontological debate, and it might honestly be the most consequential part of the entire framework.
Really?
Yeah. The court uses a descriptive definition heavily based on standards from the OECD and the EU AI Act. The draft defines AI as a software that infers, learns, and generates.
Which, to a layperson, sounds completely reasonable. That's what AI does.
Right, but FDPPI points out this is a massive literalism trap.
Hi.
Because those words are conjunctive. Infers, learns, and generates. What if a vendor builds a tool that only infers and generates text, but has its learning function disabled so it doesn't adapt to user input?
Oh.
By the strict letter of that definition, a lawyer could argue their tool isn't legally AI and therefore completely escapes all this regulation.
It creates an enormous loophole.
Huge loophole. Furthermore, the court lists the outputs of AI as decisions, predictions, and recommendations, but they completely leave out the word content.
Which is crazy.
It's a huge oversight, given that generative AI, which explicitly writes content like case summaries or legal briefs, is the most common form of AI entering the workspace right now.
So if content isn't an output, then ChatGPT summarizing a case file technically isn't covered by the guidelines at all.
Exactly. So FDPPI offers a brilliant alternative. What's fascinating here is how they completely shift the focus away from describing the code.
Okay, what do they do instead?
They synthesize the court's definition with their own standard, the Data Governance and Protection Standard of India, or DGPSI. DGPSI defines AI not by listing what tasks it performs, but by establishing when human control drops below an acceptable threshold.
Oh, wow. So it's not about the software, it's about the loss of human agency.
Precisely. They map this loss of agency into 3 specific classes. Class 1 is adaptive systems. This is an AI that alters its own decision behavior, like adjusting its weights or parameters, without a human developer manually reviewing and deploying that specific change.
So it's actively learning and changing its mind on its own.
Right. Class 2 is autonomous action systems. This is when an AI implements a decision affecting a human without a human reviewing it first.
Give me a concrete example of a Class 2 system in a courthouse. What is it actually doing?
Well, imagine an automated case management AI that sees a lawyer has missed 2 filing deadlines.
Okay.
And it autonomously schedules a penalty hearing and issues a fine without a human court clerk ever reviewing the context or clicking approve.
It just does it.
It acts autonomously based on its programming.
Right.
And finally, Class 3 covers generative and effective systems AI that creates novel content or analyzes and responds to human emotions, like analyzing video testimony to guess if a witness is lying.
That's intense. And FDPPI recommends the courts combine these approaches, right?
Right.
Use the court's descriptive definition to cast a wide net, but use the DGPSI human control threshold as the actual legal trigger for regulation.
Yes.
The moment human control drops below the line, whether it's learning on its own, acting autonomously, or generating content, the heavy rules kick in.
It's a much safer trigger.
I want to highlight why this threshold matters so much on a practical level, specifically for unrepresented litigants.
Oh, absolutely.
These are everyday citizens showing up to court without a lawyer. If they are trying to navigate the system by interacting with a newly installed court chatbot, They are incredibly vulnerable.
It is a massive vulnerability point.
Mm.
A chatbot designed to be quote-unquote helpful might inadvertently guide a user into making legally binding mistakes.
Which is why FDPPI demands strict guardrails for these public-facing tools.
Yeah.
They insist on absolute bans against manipulative nudging, what tech developers call dark patterns.
Right.
You can't have a chatbot using confusingly worded buttons that trick a panicked, unrepresented citizen into waiving their rights to an appeal. There must be huge, undeniable disclosures that the user is talking to a bot, not a human court clerk,
Yes.
and prominent disclaimers that the bot's outputs are strictly procedural, not legal advice.
Transparency at the point of interaction is just non-negotiable.
And speaking of transparency, we have to look at FDPPI's reality check regarding the court's proposed AI content verification authorities.
Right.
The draft suggests the courts should set up dedicated tech bodies to verify if a submitted piece of evidence, like a photo or an audio clip, was generated by AI.
Which sounds fantastic in theory. We all want to catch deepfakes in the courtroom.
But FDPPI basically says, look, the technology to perfectly and definitively detect AI content simply does not exist.
It does.
Current detection tech is entirely probabilistic. It's just an algorithm guessing. Sometimes it analyzes the U.S. Constitution or Shakespeare and flags it as AI generated.
Exactly.
FDPPI points out that it's practically an unfunded mandate to ask courts to definitively verify every single piece of submitted evidence perfectly when the tools to do so are fundamentally flawed.
Which is why FDPPI pivots away from relying on magical detection machines at the end of the process and leans heavily into evidentiary integrity at the source.
How do you do that?
They point directly to the new National Evidence Act, the Haratya Saksha Adhiniyam, specifically Section 63.
Okay.
Whenever AI is used to generate or present electronic evidence, there must be strict sworn disclosures from the humans involved at the time of submission. You have to demand legal transparency at the beginning, backed by the threat of perjury, because you just cannot rely on a software filter to catch a deepfake at the end.
So what does this all mean? We've covered a massive amount of ground today, diving deep into the mechanics of tomorrow's justice system. It means India has a golden opportunity right now.
They really do.
They are staring at a blank canvas, and they have the chance to create a world-first, highly functional judicial AI framework.
Yeah.
But to actually make it work, they have to abandon the administrative bloat.
Right.
They have to ensure independent auditing happens on-site without compromising secure judicial data.
Yeah.
They absolutely must install air-gapped, unhackable kill switches.
Yep.
They need to code in a fading memory so the law doesn't stagnate. And above all, they need to legally define the exact threshold where human control is lost. It is a tall order, but getting it right is just essential.
It is essential. And, this framework raises an important question that extends far beyond the marble halls of a Supreme Court.
What's that?
We've talked deeply today about regulating AI agents within the highest courts of law. These are systems capable of multi-step autonomous action. I want you to look at your own profession. Look at your own daily tasks. If an AI agent were deployed tomorrow to make autonomous decisions on your behalf, sending emails to clients, approving department budgets, finalizing project designs, where exactly is your personal accountability threshold?
That's a great question.
At what specific point, when the machine starts acting on your behalf, would you need to install a tamper-proof kill switch to protect your own reputation and livelihood? Because the automated future isn't just arriving in the courts, it's arriving directly on your desk.
Think about where your kill switch is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep unpacking the world, keep questioning the information around you, and we'll see you next time.